Hi, everybody, and welcome. Tonight, we are going to be talking about Prince Harry and his court case today in the UK against the Mirror Group newspapers. And we're going to just break it down. I have a few articles that I'm going to read. I'm going to get your opinion, your thoughts on the matter. I'm going to read a piece that was written by this woman in the Irish Times, and we're going to discuss Harry's testimony because it's interesting. As of yesterday, he didn't even show up, and we're going to talk about that in a second too. But I want to welcome all of you guys. I'm Deanna here from Hot for History. I want to know where you guys are coming in from, like what part of the world. I see we have Southern California, and then we've got Florida, and people coming in from all over the place. And yeah, there were actually two court cases today, one in the US that Harry did not attend, which has to do with his visa application and whether or not he lied in order to get in. Welcome from New York City, one of my favorite cities. I hope things are going well there, Bridget. So, from California, from Canada, from Kentucky. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so great to see you guys. Now, for those of you who haven't been here, hey, Denise from Detroit, if you have not been on my lives here, we have people from all over, and from all over there, they have all different types of opinions about Harry. I have my own opinions, and Meghan, and King Charles and Camilla. And I typically do history content, but as I mentioned before, I really see this as history in the making, and that's why we cover the royal family. And it's been so dramatic ever since the Queen died, with, from Harry's book Spare, from the Netflix documentary, from the King having his coronation and not knowing if they're going to come, from this whole rift between, the brothers, and, Harry saying things about Camilla, and, the car chase. It seems like we just have a lot. We have a lot to unpack. So, tonight, we're just going to discuss it. I like to feature your questions and your comments on the screen. So, my got to see Great Britain News where they have actor doing his court lines. Come on, Stephen. Seriously? Oh, I want to know about that. That sounds interesting. I would love to see something like that. So, let's break it down a little bit, and then I will take some of your comments and questions. Stephen, I'm so curious to hear what you have to say about that after watching that. Okay, so I'm going to read this article from the Irish Times because I thought that she wrote it so well, and it'll be a great way to sort of put it up here. Yeah, and it almost seems like that. It's been there. So you say someone must have put a curse since the late Queen died. It seems like there's just been so much drama. Remember back in the day, I mean, we watch these medieval things about kings and stuff. They're all like killing each other for the throne, right? So these days it's all in the media. It's like, let's have our battles in the media. And so that's kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing this shift, and like this shift into what this new monarchy will be. And it's messy and it's complex, and people have so many different opinions on it. And the truth is, at the end of the day, we don't really know. We know what the media is telling us, and Prince Harry is there to fight the media. He said it's going to be his life's work to do that. And yet, so much of what he's saying, my opinion, is it sounds like he projects all of his awful experiences to the press. And obviously, we all can sympathize with the awful thing that happened to him as a child, where he lost his mother due to, the media being involved and chasing him and all of that. So we can sympathize with that, while also separating the fact that the man he is now, how did he handle that, and how is he handling it now? And it seems like what he's doing is he's still projecting everything, whether it's his breakup with Chelsea, whether it's the fact that people thought his dad was James Hewitt and that was in the news, whether it was his fights with his brother, whether it was him, dressing up in a Nazi uniform, whether it was his tours in Afghanistan, everything for him, he projects it into the media. It's like his anger and his grief, because grief and anger are often the same, is just focused on the media. So there's my little rant for a hot second, but let me read this article, and then I want to hear what your opinions are on some of the stuff. So I thought this was very well written. This woman's name is Finn McRedman. And she says, by now we're all familiar with the Sussex paradox. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan abhor the press, but they need it also to survive. True statement. Harry dreams of a private life in which he can still be the center of attention. The pair tell the world that they all want to be left alone, and yet they do it on TV. That's what she's saying. They suggest the media has ruined their lives, fully in the knowledge of everything it has given them. It's hard to not have sympathy for the two people whose lives are predicated on such a stark internal contradiction. In other words, they seem confused. That's what she's saying. Achieving inner peace seems a distant fantasy for anyone operating under those conditions. And it was clear on Tuesday. So she's going to break down some things in this, in the case and the testimony with Harry as he delivered evidence in his case against the Daily Mirror Group for alleged unlawful information. And I just want to insert here right now that the Mirror Group did admit that in 2015 that there were some, phone hacking situations, I guess on, I don't know, independent, reporters or whatever. But all of the 33 incidences that they're discussing with Harry's in particular did not have that. So they're claiming that that doesn't apply to him. So I'm just wanting to let you know that they did admit to some guilt, I guess you would say, in the past, but not necessarily against Harry. So no matter the personal feelings anyone holds for the Sussexes, and they tend to inspire both affection and ferocious animus, we're watching a sad tale unravel about a man driven by madness by his hatred of the media. The press intrusion started when he was at school and followed him into adulthood. Now, I think we also will admit that he has been chased by the media his whole life. He has been in the middle of the media, and that could be frustrating, but he was born into the royal family. And I think he says he's making it his life's work to make some transformation in the media. And I think, there probably needs to be some transformation in the media, but whether or not he's going about it in the right way or not, I don't know. So, and then she goes on to say nothing in his life, his lawyer, David Sherburne, says was sacrosanct or out of bounds. Sensitive details about his familial relationships, including claims about how he was handling his parents' divorce, were all fair game. It's hard stuff because it's like he is, in America, we wouldn't even be arguing that because it's freedom of speech and all of that, right? So articles with details on his location and movements troubled him greatly. He even suggests that seeds of distrust between him and his brother were from the media. He just claims that everything, his breakup with his girlfriend, was from the media. He just goes on and on. How could Harry's phone have been hacked at a time when he did not own one? This is what the cross-examination is saying. Is it really fair to accuse a journalist of unlawful information gathering when the details of their story were already in the public domain? And Harry claims to not have read the articles that he is claiming impacted his life negatively. So that is something that the attorney brought out. And she says the general contours of Harry's argument. And by the way, after this article, I'm going to take your questions. I just want to make sure to get to this. Harry's arguments are basically right. The press was intrusive and a corrosive atmosphere was cultivated and allowed to fester for years. At some point, everyone lost their minds and lost any sense of boundaries. But everything else about Harry comes across as a little wrong. This is this woman's opinion from the Irish Times. His self-righteousness, his inability to see his contradictions, his desire to have it all without any of the consequences. In fact, it's precisely that lack of self-awareness. I have made this observation many times. He doesn't ever take accountability. It's like he lives in a different world, in my opinion, that draws most of his critics. Harry thinks he's a reformed and mature man, but in written statement submitted to the court, he says he ended up playing up to a lot of the headlines of the stereotypes. The tabloids, he contends, coaxed him into bad behavior. In other words, even his bad behavior was because of the media. Again, he doesn't take any accountability. If they are printing this rubbish about me, and people were believing it, I might as well do the crime, so to speak. See? So the logic makes no sense. For a man attempting to prove he's now an honest grown-up, this is a rather odd way to do so. And worse than that, Harry's standing up in court lamenting the damage the press wrought on his private life. He seems to have forgotten that his own book, Spare, good point, hardly demonstrated a great deal of concern for his family's privacy. There's no doubt that Harry's life is thoroughly unenviable, and his feelings are definitely real. Maybe even his motivations are pure, but he is a terribly inconsistent person too. The question is, when it comes to Harry, it's always the same. Is he a hypocrite or a terribly damaged young man? Is he a sensitive lamb or a spoiled brat? Self-absorbed or genuinely concerned? To which there can be only one answer. He's all of them. Okay, let's go, guys. Taking the comments. That was some article. I'm curious. I'm going back a little bit. Hi everybody. Hi. Okay, let's take this. Stephen, I wonder if trip by King and Queen to Transylvania has sort of message in it that Harry has turned into something evil. Oh my gosh, like a vampire, or Dracula. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. This is the second time where I've said, did he leave to just leave, or was he already having this scheduled? I don't know. Okay, so I hope you're doing well tonight, darling. I agree. The media became a focus of his anger after the death of his mother. Harry was forced to live his life in the media because he was a royal. Yeah. And I don't think that there's any real precedence of this specific. I know that there's been other celebrities. I know there's been other, celebrities that have had to live out very sad stuff. But as a royal, and then also dealing with your mother's death, it's insinuated, and obviously the media was there, that the media was involved. There's no like textbook for this, really. So again, we can sympathize for him and be concerned for him, but at the same time think, wait, why do some people move past this and then they don't? And I think the end of this article, which is what I really liked, she had a great point. She's like, listen, is he damaged, or is he a spoiled brat? Is he self-absorbed, or is he genuinely concerned? The contradictions in Harry, because we're talking about him tonight, not necessarily Meghan, they're so deep and so different that they're hard to break down. And that's why I believe there's so much emotion from either side. We either think, oh my gosh, he's so entitled, it's so frustrating, or we get very, caught up on the empathy. I have serious empathy for him. I understand. I can't fully grasp what he's going through, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like we've seen a lot of evolution. Just like she says, it seems like he's stuck in the past. Okay, I remember Harry giving the raspberry to the media on the first day of preschool. Yes, he always hated the media. It was adorable. You mean, and he kind of like turned, wasn't he in the car, and he kind of like almost licked the window or something like that. I'm so tired. Please go away. No one cares. Yeah, they are becoming so, you know what it is, Dixie? It's like, I feel like right when we it's like those scary movies where you go to sleep, you relax, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's back at you. You know what I mean? And he is so dramatic. He claimed he still was troubled about Major Hewitt, oh, listen, dude, I am talking about that. His father up to 30 or so, but never followed up. And by the way, I will say that's not obviously you want to be your father's son, but like James Hewitt, gorgeous man, whatever. So anyhow, it's just my observation. Harry dressed as a Nazi because he thought his friends would think it's funny. Yeah, but he also claimed that it was Kate and Will's fault, right? But this is my point. He's saying he will do things because the media says it. He's saying he will do things because his sister-in-law and his brother do it. Like, it's never like, oops, I made that mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Let me move on. Let me move forward. It's like he's so ticked off and projects so much of his anger outwardly that he can never, in my opinion, what she said, he's either self-aware or generous. But I think he's totally not self-aware. He's just not aware of, I feel like he doesn't have the same kind of empathy, because when you have empathy, you can have kind of an awareness of yourself. It's almost like he doesn't understand that his actions cause this stuff. And so it has to always be the media. It has to be them, because it couldn't be him. So does anyone else think that Harry really needs counseling from a professional therapist? Yeah. And he claims to have had that, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, I think he totally does. I feel like he's projecting things. I think that his grief and his sadness is still being lived out now. And I think that it's very, very messy, Okay, so listen, the New York Times talks about his opening statement. Sorry, I did not hear the whole thing, but apparently he says something like, hey, you know, uh, the journalists have blood on their hands. So he makes these. I'm starting to think that that whole line about the near catastrophic car chase was his too. It's like there's words that are used that are so dramatic, and even if they just quell or soften the language a bit with Harry's PR, including, let's say, having somebody reread his opening statement, I think then that would do a lot for his image. Now, if he's referring to his mother, it's true. It's a true statement, but I think he uses it because this is not just about his mother, it's about an entire case. He uses these big, grandiose, dramatic um phrases constantly. So I think whenever we hear those types of phrases, we can probably bet that it's coming from Harry himself. And I think the other thing that we're noticing, and you guys can let me know your thoughts, is that I'll just be honest, like for a long time, and still, I'm not a huge fan of Megan's, but I think she's been smart and sort of like letting him, not getting too involved in this, because I think people project, because people wanted to like him so much, so much, because we always did like him. We liked the funny things like the raspberry on the first day of preschool, and some of these things that were messy, but they made him human. Like we loved that. And then when he married Megan, and everybody was focusing on Megan so much that, oh, she's the one who's making him be like that because he's the golden child, like everybody loved him the most, right? So I think Megan taking herself out of the equation a bit, and again, I'm not saying personally, I'm not a big fan of hers, but I do think that she has been the scapegoat for a lot of his issues, and it's been wise of her to keep herself sort of not involved in this type of stuff, because he's exposing himself in a way that we never got to see. Like, everybody would probably assume that the bad stuff was the result of somebody else. And he even makes that excuse himself. Well, that was so and so's problem, and that's why I wore that uniform. But, he needs to take some responsibility. He really does. And you say, I feel like this all happened after he married Megan. And I agree with you. I think that's true. But and my interpretation is that he got off of his, turf, and he ended up moving to America, where, you're supposed to be able to say whatever the heck you want. And he's with a wife that's like, you can say whatever the heck you want. So all of a sudden he feels the freedom, where he was in an institution where, it's never complain, never explain. So he kind of lived by that motto. And now his motto is full expression, full on, it's sort of like bull in a china shop, just say whatever the heck you want. And yet the irony is that he's fighting for the media not to be able to also be intrusive. Just like in this article, it was like, well, he was intrusive and telling secrets, but now he wants to point the finger at the media, which they probably are, I mean, that's the media's job. That's what they do. So the media, I'm sure, did cross the line in a sense, and yet their very existence, unfortunately, as royals, was to basically be in the press and be the entertainment. Like that's kind of their thing. They're ambassadors for the UK, and so they're going to be like, in the media. So it's probably always there, but manipulation of him is beyond. Yeah. So yes, the supposed car chase just happened to occur just right before the trial appearance. Well, yeah, and the car chase also happened to occur right when he got turned down from this whole extra security thing. Like, my goodness, I have to be extremely safe. And now you're in New York, where there's celebrities moving from events every single day with the top-notch security, that knows how to get around Manhattan, especially during, right after the theater lets out. Like, and all of a sudden you're in that compromised position where I guarantee there were probably at least half a dozen, if not a dozen other celebrities that night out getting around in cars. Like, I don't understand it. So yes, dramatic, and also feels manipulated. And yes, so he constantly talks, most of us do believe sort of the script, or at least the headlines that are like, okay, it's the media. But it is true that she was not wearing a Princess Diana died because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Does Harry blame her for it? No. But that's the thing. I think his grief was never, they say the grief cycle is like, you have anger, you have all of these things. You have deep sorrow, everything. You can get obsessive about things, you can get addicted to things, like all kinds of things. You can go through this whole cycle. I feel like he hasn't gotten past and really through the grief of it, and being able to just let it go, for it being something that was totally out of his control. And I think his desire, and again, I'm not a I'm not a therapist. I'm just a chick, watching this. This is why we watch it, because it's fascinating. We're trying to figure it out, right? And that's what history is. You try to reconstruct things based on the information that you have. So anyhow, I think that he has such grief, and he can't possibly say, well, my mother wasn't wearing a seatbelt, she was in a car with a driver that was drunk, like, because Diana was kind of otherworldly for many of us. And especially now in her death, it's like she was amazing in many ways. But guess what? She was human, and she made a lot of mistakes, and she fed things to the media too. And that is the truth. That is the truth. Okay, so Steven says he tried to get out of substance abuse admissions, saying he has done it where legal too. Visa laws relate back, not forward, if illegal, of time. I bet he's back at his hotel room pounding beer down. Well, what do you guys think or know about his being late yesterday? Okay, so this was the big news yesterday. It was like, oh my gosh, where is he? And now I always thought he was testifying on Tuesday, but I didn't realize he needed to be there on Monday. So apparently the opposing, counsel ended up going through their opening statements and everything really fast, which means they had extra time, which means they could have started with Harry yesterday. And then the judge was like, where is your client? Like, where is he? Like, why isn't he here? And it ticked him off, right? But apparently this is what the media says, but it was probably that he didn't think that he needed to be there. And then so he wasn't, but then he never arrived after the judge was like, well, can you get him? So he was probably just told that he wasn't needed. But there's also the headlines and the talking points that say that he had jet lag, he came in late, he didn't really feel like coming because he didn't have to come. So if it's true that he didn't show up just because he's like, well, I had jet lag and my daughter's birthday was the other day and I was a little late, so I just decided to sit Monday out and I'll show up on Tuesday. If that is truly the case, then that's another example of him being entitled and not totally aware of what is really going on. But yes, I'm positive too, Stephen, that he's probably having a few beers. That could have been why he didn't make it on Monday. He blames the press and paparazzi for Diana's death. She did nothing wrong. Neither does he do anything ever. Well, yeah, and I think, yeah, I think accountability is a big deal. I think it's a big deal. And I think us knowing and being able to admit our wrongs is a big deal. I also do think his entitlement as being a prince, even though he wasn't, number one in line, but he was number two number three at a point, was that he just doesn't get it. He doesn't really know how to be a non-royal, even though he's trying to. And again, he'll always be royal, but I'm saying a non-working royal where you have all those perks. And so he probably was like, well, I'll just be late. So beer is legal in the US. Oh, of course. Well, yeah, but I think they were I think Stephen was mentioning on the visa application, or maybe that was, I don't know, visa application regarding him doing that in legal places. Okay. I agree. He was, I agree. He was like a likable fellow, but seems like Meghan flared up his emotions and maybe she saw money. Yeah, I mean, he definitely is expressing his emotions. I mean, he definitely did seem a little bit more, kind of, I don't know, strong. Because, I mean, you see there's a strength that comes with being able to sort of endure and have the poise through the rough parts of life. And especially, if you're royal and possibly going to be king one day, there's something powerful about that. So everyone has lost a parent, sibling, and children. He needs to pull himself by his own bootstraps and live his private life he wanted. I agree. I think that it's like trying to sorry, there are trains in this neighborhood. It's very charming, but sometimes it's loud. Okay. So I think that it's very ironic that he can't see. I think it's like an addiction habit. It's like he needs to feed, and Megan does too. They need to feed into that media, and you do get kind of an endorphin rush. And then, without that, I don't know if he knows how to exist. I do think it would be the best thing for him, because they say they're going to go kind of behind the camera now, but who knows, that they're going to just kind of be producers and everything. But I think that it would be good for him. I think it would be good for him to really quiet himself, listen to his feelings, talk to somebody consistently without all of the stuff around him, because they're fueling the fire. They're poking the bear with all of this. Absolutely. And so is weed in California. But yeah, I know that, but it wasn't when he made his application. I don't think they just necessarily think of your visa into a particular state. It's into America, and there's still those particular rules. Like I think I mentioned this the other night. I'm in Illinois right now, but I couldn't bring, if I went to the dispensary and got something, I couldn't bring it into Florida. And so it would still be, it's a felony. It's a felony in certain states still. So, but they were asking about his past. And the one thing I think is like, it wouldn't be just because he did something like that in the past. I mean, I don't know. I think that whole thing about his visa, I don't think that's going to get any traction. I think it's interesting that they're doing it, but I don't know why. I did not ask or even watch this thing concerning what's his name, but still it appears on my comments why. I'm not into this type of crap. I don't know. I mean, sometimes when you read something once, it shows up in your feed. I swear, you just got to kind of try to pass it by. Okay, so let's talk. So he got burned in court, and just saying, I can imagine him in Soho pounding beers legal. Yes, he really got, well, beer in the UK is like, of course, it's totally normal. He really got slammed today. He needs to live a private life. So Stephen, mention to us if you can, and I'll try to catch up with it, where you can watch this sort of court simulation of the case, because that sounds absolutely fascinating to me. Okay, so I am going to, so Harry said after, the judge was like, please don't discuss this with anybody. He goes, well, I am going to FaceTime my kids and my wife after this. And, there's some people who are like, well, don't tell Megan. Of course, he's going to tell his wife and talk to his wife about it. But I think he's very lighthearted in this thing. Although I think he was surprised at it being harder than he thought, but I think he was trying to crack jokes, and then it got a little bit more intense. And you can tell me. Now, here's the thing. Oh, can we talk about Chelsea? Like, Chelsea Davy, first off, from a very wealthy family. She's from, I think, I always get it confused. I think she was from Zimbabwe, not from South Africa. So I could be wrong, but I think that's where it was. But anyhow, they were great together. But he's implying that their breakup was due to the media. I think probably part of it was probably intense. But she is so smart. I think she's a lawyer and a businesswoman. She has her own like jewelry line, a really great blog. She's married to a successful guy. I think she had her first child recently, doing amazing. And I don't think she wanted to marry him. She had an extra chance, I think, at Will and Kate's wedding when they connected again. That wasn't going to happen. They were totally done after that. So, but he's saying that, that the breakup was, because of this too, which is wild. No, at the time he did it, smoked, is time they look, or not, at not fact legal. Okay, so Do you think Harry will say someone else filed? Oh, yeah, filled out his paperwork? I think he will say that, and it's probably true because, that's what you do, I don't think it's possible that somebody else filled that out. So, um, okay. She's everything Megan isn't. Okay. So, oh, okay. I'm trying not to get real political here, EH Bunny, so I'm just not gonna, but anyhow, she was amazing. His other girlfriend, Cressida, was also amazing. They both consider themselves having married up. And believe it or not, a lot of these aristocrat women in the UK did not necessarily see Prince Harry as, a great catch. He just didn't. Did you hear how Harry cried talking about Chelsea and mentioned her? No. I do live for this kind of thing because I was a big Chelsea Davy fan. So she's something, and she would have been fine, hanging out in Africa. Okay, wait, where are you? Where are you? Okay, so you can't legally own a, well, yeah, half the country are now criminals. Okay, so no visa. People will meet and ask if true statements, so he won't be able to escape if he failed to disclose. I don't know. I don't know. I just cannot, in my mind, I can't imagine how that would get him in, like, I understand in a way, but I can't imagine him being deported. He's married to somebody who's American. He has two children, one of whom was born here. So even if he lied, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to live it out. Okay, so let's talk about the James Hewitt thing. Okay, so let's talk about it. Many of us do think that they resemble each other. And by the way, Harry, with all of his talk about Will's baldness, there's been more shots of the back of his head about his Friar Tuck thing going on. And so I wonder if he's regretting making those statements, just because I wouldn't have made those statements just because of my superstition. I'd be like, if I say that about my brother in a book, I bet I'm going to lose my hair. That's how I think. Prince Harry said rumors King Charles III was not his father were very damaging and very real to me. I can imagine, like, in the midst of everything, now that happens. And he feared journalists would try to get him ousted from the royal family. Oh, that's awful. But the Duke of Sussex is suing Mirror Group newspapers on historic allegations of phone hacking, including one story headline, "Plot to Rob the DNA of Harry," published in The People on December 15th, 2002. These are going back pretty far. The article related to rumors that Major James Hewitt, who Princess Diana had an affair with, was Harry's real father. King Charles III and Prince Harry attended the Our Planet Global premiere at Natural History Museum in London, England in April of 2019. Harry told the High Court that rumors Charles was not his real father were very real to me. In a witness statement seen by Newsweek, Harry said the article, which was published on page 4 of The People and was written by Dean Roswell, reported a plot to steal a sample of my DNA. Oh my gosh. I do believe that 1,000%. Numerous new that they tried to that they had a plot to take his DNA. Numerous newspapers had reported a rumor that my biological father was James Hewitt, a man my mother had a relationship with after I was born. Yeah, and that is true. The timing wouldn't even line up. Like, the timing wouldn't even line up. At the time of this article and others similar to it, I wasn't actually aware that my mother hadn't met Major Hewitt until after I was born. So in other words, he's believing it's true because he didn't put the timing together. This timeline is something I only learned of in around 2014, although a lot of his life he's thinking, am I really the son of King Charles? Although I now understand this was common knowledge amongst the defendant's journalists. At the time when I was 18 years old and had lost my mother just 6 years earlier, stories such as this felt damaging and very real to me. And I can imagine. They were hurtful, mean, and cruel. I was always left questioning the motives behind the story. Were the newspapers keen to put doubt in the minds of the public so that I might be ousted from the royal family. Harry's account suggested the rumor over who his real father is was only quashed for him aged 30, which for context was 2 years before he met his wife, Meghan Markle, and a year after the birth of George. The court heard how the People and his sister magazine, Daily Mirror, had reported on a plan to obtain his DNA, to sell it, to find out if it was his real father. Okay, let's go with that. First off, yeah, I can understand why that would feel scary and hurtful. You don't know that until you're 30 years old. That's awful. That's awful. Awful. So I can see how that's hurtful. My question is, though, with a lawsuit like this, like, at what level do you put damage? Like, how can you say, okay, this had damaged us, or whatever, or was the damage already done? Right. So that's my question. In particular, politically probably wouldn't happen, deported. You remembered Friar Tuck. Look, yes, I remember that. I think you were the one who said it. Harry got super emotional talking about Chelsea, only mentioned Meghan, I want to say 5 times, and also heard that okay, so wait, are you saying that he only mentioned Meghan, but he said Chelsea 5 times? Is that what happened? Yes, this is important. Don't forget, Prince William secretly settled with the media, and he didn't tell Prince Harry of the transaction. I don't know. I thought that Harry knew, but Harry wasn't telling the public about it. I thought that Harry knew about that, but again, I haven't read that in a while. So you'll love Great Britain news of today. Look at the 3-4 today. These will show the actor, more hair, and all things we are discussing. You'll love it on YouTube. Okay. I did look at what's his name, the barrister that you had me look at. I checked him out. Prince William knows Harry's telling the truth. I do think that Prince William and Harry probably had an agreement long ago that they were going to fight this media thing together. And then William probably was like, at some point, and then of course their relationship wasn't the same. But I do think William doesn't doubt or disagree that the media went too far. The question is whether they, how they decided to handle it, all he is doing is stirring up his own emotions. He needs to stop. Sorry. Got a phone call. Hey, sorry. Harry knew because of court proceedings. I thought that I thought it was settled out of court and that they just gave him the money with Prince William. So that's what I thought. Chelsea, like 35 more times. Ooh, it's okay. Do you guys think that he still has a thing for Chelsea? Just wondering what your opinions are. And the James Hewitt thing, like, unfortunately, he does kind of have the same coloring. But that's just an observation. But the timing is not right. And yet that rumor was around for a long, long time. And I don't know if the purpose of the lawsuit would address that. In other words, if the purpose of the lawsuit is like, stop hacking, stop doing this, stop doing that, that wouldn't stop them from still kind of making up and fabricating these thoughts and these ideas. So it's sort of like a different thing, even though it's very, very hurtful. So yeah, a private eye found out. So it must have been a sealed court thing out through court docs. Okay, absolutely his first love. Ooh. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think she's holding a torch for him anymore. I just don't. But there's in some ways it would have been so much easier for him to have married somebody in the UK, keep it simple, yada, yada, yada. And yet it seems appropriate that he probably chose in the way that he chose because, he's Harry. He's thinking out of the box, thinking something different. Although other people were like, nobody wanted him. I know that's really blunt because that's probably, there's a lot of people who would marry a prince. Absolutely. But the people who kind of had, that kind of background or knew things about the royal family. Like they didn't want anything to do with what was going on. So here's the thing. They say that this case will go on for 7 weeks. He is only one to testify. So there's like hundreds of articles, tons of things to do, but it is, I believe it's a judge type of case, but we're not going to hear anything until 7, 8 weeks. Now, some people say that they already know that he might lose this one, but it's still going to be good because the Mirror admitted that they got some of the other things from another paper. So some of that testimony could help him in another case if he loses, but he could win. We don't know what's going to happen, like with the other testimonies. I do believe for her, why is he fighting a battle for her now? I know, like, if I would be like, does he have to keep mentioning me? That was a long time ago. Can you guys think back to like having a boyfriend, even if it was an important boyfriend, like 10 years or girlfriend 10 years ago or something like that, and then all of a sudden they're like talking about, 10, maybe it's like 15 years ago. Some of, they brought up something from 2002. Like this stuff goes way back, but can you imagine all of a sudden, like their past history, like their history to you, and then all of a sudden they're gabbing about you and your name's in the paper every day. I bet she's having to like hide from the paparazzi herself at this point. I heard that about William out of court too. Some of the commentators were saying that Meghan may not be happy how Harry reacted discussing Chelsea. Who knows how Meghan will react? I mean, I thought that she actually invited Chelsea to the wedding and they met. I thought they did, but I could be wrong. Harry knew Chelsea longer than Meghan. He had an Anna he was with her for a long time and they were friends and he visited her family and he liked Africa and Stephen, thought provoking. Meghan is fuming. You guys think she's going to be fuming? Well, Chelsea's going to be in the paper quite a bit because, in the news, because that's what they're talking about. She's probably just trying to carry, walk her baby around in the pram and work on her jewelry. Okay, so I saw Harry in court and got curious. What's happening? Yeah, so there's 2 courts. There's 2, cases going on, and that's what we're, that's what we're talking about. So we're talking about the court case against the Daily Mirror or the Mirror Group newspapers in the UK. And then there also was a case that he wasn't at in America with the Heritage Foundation regarding his visa and illegal drug use on that application. So I think that, okay, my wife would be, I know from the experience, Meghan might be a hot boiling tea kettle. Meghan might be, a tea kettle, hearing about, you probably mean Chelsea. I don't know. I think they probably knew that he was going to bring her up, but I don't know. I hear that he was insinuating that their breakup was a huge cause, but I think part of that, maybe she didn't want to be in the public eye, but even if the media was toned down, being part of the royal family with even a minuscule amount of the media would still might turn a lot of people off. So I don't know if it was the intrusion of them or just the fact that he's royal and she didn't want to be involved in that. I don't know. William is entitled to privacy. Maybe he didn't trust low IQ Harry. Hang on. I got to get this down. Low IQ Harry to keep his mouth shut about the payout. Wasn't the payout donated to Harry's Invictus game? That is a really great point. I heard that too. I heard that William had his own little kid and gave Harry's Invictus game $1 million or something like that. I did hear that. Meghan, she's polishing her wedding ring to care about Harry's past. Yeah, I don't think I don't know. It's hard to know, but anyhow, that thing regarding the Invictus games, he should focus more on the Invictus games. Don't we love that type of thing that Harry does? And then I don't think Meghan, if he's playing a polo match in Santa Barbara, I don't know if you saw this, she shouldn't get on the stage to receive the trophy with them. That's my opinion. Stay off, Meghan. Stay off to the side. He played the polo game with his teammates. You don't need to get on the stage. That's my opinion. So this is his or her own. I'm sorry, this is his and his own only. But let's not involve other parties. They have nothing to do with this. Right. So Meghan might be a hot boiling tea kettle. Okay, I already read that. Okay. He could have left out that count in his complaint. Oh, he could have. There were like apparently 33 articles, and he's talking about her a lot. I do think that I don't know. Do you guys know if he's going back tomorrow? I thought that he was going back tomorrow because of the first day, the lateness. So I think there's going to be more. So the question is, a lot of people are saying, and a lot of press is saying, it was a disaster. Him being on the stand was a disaster. But I'm realizing that it's usually who you ask. So I don't know. I did hear that it was bad. That he was like, okay, well, how can you be saying you were bothered by that? You didn't even have a cell phone at that time. How can you say that was intrusive against you, and yet that article was damaging, and yet you never read the article? So there are all these contradictions and all this confusion, So didn't the Mirror Daily Mail decide to fight Harry because they knew they could win, because Mirror Daily Mail settled millions of dollars with actual victims of tampering hacking? Well, I know that they said that in 2015, there was some kind of admission of guilt upon something. And so I also heard that they wanted to settle out of court with him 6 figures. And for Harry, it's not about the money, it's about the justice. Plus, there's many other people that are affected by this that will be taking the stand. It's not just Harry. Okay. All right. So I think that's it, guys. Please do subscribe, share with your friends. Let's come back and discuss this. I'll be trying to pay attention tomorrow. I do wish that this was one of those Johnny Depp cases or American cases where we get to watch. This would be so fun to watch. But Stephen, GB New. Okay, GB New. Please watch and you'll love it. Okay, GB New. Okay, I'm going to do that. That's what we'll talk about tomorrow. Okay, so guys, watch that GB New or GB News. Sorry. I've watched them before, but I didn't know that they were doing kind of a mock trial. That'll be fun. I heard Piers Morgan's name was mentioned in court. Yes. Our Good Morning Britain no, it's because he was the editor of the newspaper years ago when all this was happening. So that's why they're mentioning him a lot. And of course, he's saying, I didn't have anything to do with this. I didn't know, so that's why he's being mentioned. Okay. So guys, thank you so much. We'll talk about this again, maybe tomorrow night, and I'll talk to you later. Bye guys. Good night.